Finally, there's an area that you and I have had some discussion of offline in the past, which is, does search marketing get too much credit for that last click, and therefore result in misattribution of budgets?
Everything I've seen suggests that it does. Look, but at the same time, they say there's no question it is maybe one of the most powerful closing tactics that has ever been invented. But to say that that's all it takes to get a sale completed ignores, I think, all of the branding value that's delivered by other other forms of internet marketing higher up in the funnel. And the work that we've done at comScore, looking at the impact of search-only ads, display-only ads, and then search plus display, is pretty clear. You do get, the evidence is just compelling. You get synergy when you run an overlay of a display campaign on top of search, and it's you can't. I don't think you can just do it with search alone. I mean, by the way, recognize that the reach you're going to get with a search ad campaign is limited, as I think you said earlier, by how many people are searching on those particular keywords,
sure.
Right? So you can get much higher reach with a display. You can drive the reach with a display campaign. With a search campaign, you kind of limit it to searching.
There's no doubt that the vast majority of search marketers out there right now run their campaigns to harvest demand,
yep.
Not so much to create demand, right? So as to what actually created the demand that they're harvesting, right? It could be their own media, it could be somebody else's media,
right.
It could be PR, it could be general buzz, it could be social media. But regardless of where the demand originates, a lot of folks are really just saying, hey, I don't care where it came from, I'm just here to harvest it.
Yeah.
What's fascinating, of course, is if you start making media decisions where there's a fixed pie of budget that you want to allocate, let's say for a new customer acquisition, and you now basically reattribute up the funnel for all the branding and awareness media that you were spending on, and therefore decrease the bid that you bid at the last step, you risk losing it at the most critical juncture, right? Which is that final harvesting. You may end up letting somebody else harvest the demand that you created.
True.
So it's not there's not an easy solution necessarily to even having the aha moment and saying, well, maybe it doesn't deserve all the credit, but I have to be sort of careful in what I do if I start to move credit elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you might wake up one day. Maybe it's the whole issue here is short-term versus long-term impacts. But, if you don't put some money against branding, you might wake up one day and to find that search ad is going against people who have no idea what your brand stands for or what it means. Then I think you'll find that the impact of a search click is not going to be what it was back when you really had that brand value and that brand entrenched in people's mind. I mean, I'm a believer in branding, but I think I'm a realist to understand that the pressures of closing of sale today and the quarter-to-quarter realities are, fact of life.
Right.
But there's got to be a balance.
And I think what we haven't had a chance to fully test, any of us in the industry, although we have some data, anecdotal data and some evidence that it is occurring, is that for search in particular, the true influence occurs post-click anyway, right? And that may not be influence from the second to last stage of the buying funnel to the final purchase. It may actually be a lift in awareness or a move down the consideration set from I was considering, a dozen of these product/services, and now I've got it narrowed down. And so from that perspective, maybe search doesn't get the credit for that, right? Because everyone is so myopically focused on just those clicks that did in fact convert, that they're not taking into account the fact that, a good campaign against a non-branded keyword, you'll be lucky if you get a 5% conversion rate, right? So clearly those 5% were perfect. The timing was perfect. But for the 95% of the people who arrived, it may not have been worthless for the remainder, right?
Well, I think you're kind of in a sense getting at whether there's a branding value of a non-clicked ad in search.
No, actually not the non-clicked ad. I'm talking about the person who wasn't quite ready to convert, but potentially engaged at some level of depth in the site, right? I mean, they may have surfed around for a while, may have done some comparison, may have read a white paper in the case of B2B. There's all sorts of things that might have happened that didn't necessarily correlate with that myopically focused transaction, whether it was a lead that was generated or a thank you page on a shopping cart checkout, etc. So while search may get too much credit for the conversions that are seen as a result of search, it probably doesn't get enough credit for the 95% of the visitors, the 19 out of 20 people who actually didn't convert yet.
Right. So, but I think we would agree that there are a lot of things that affect a consumer's perception of the value of a brand, that provides input into a consumer's decision, that occurs earlier than that last click.
Absolutely.
I think is what we're saying. Some of it is search, some of it is display, but I think we'd agree that you can't put 100% of the credit on that last click.
We'll
so maybe that's
the
point at which we agree on.
Well, thanks so much for coming by and having this conversation. It was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.